We had discussed that there's a lot of ikhtilaf as to what exactly the interpretation is, and we had settled on the most accepted interpretation is that these first five ayat are referring to the angels that come and take the souls. Basically, the angels that are in charge of taking the souls at the time of one's death. The next set of ayat from ayah 6 to 14 is talking about the coming of the Day of Judgment. And we see that the correlation between these two sets of ayat are that of course, the Day of Judgment is the biggest calamity that's going to fall upon the universe, which, as Allah Ta'ala describes in the ayah that we're going to be covering later today, فَإِذَا جَاءَتِ الطَّامَّةُ الْكُبْرَى. But we also see that death itself for each individual is like the beginning of his own reckoning. That's the beginning of his own Day of Judgment, so to speak. That he's going to be in his grave and he's either going to be receiving blessings or he's going to be receiving punishment. And then we had also discussed, we had a small discussion about the reality of Adab al-Qabr, and we discussed that the Mu'tazila, as well, I think someone had asked who exactly holds this position. It's the Mu'tazila, as well as some like neo-Mu'tazila, I guess you could call nowadays, that like these people that try to over-rationalize some of our beliefs, that they say that there's no such thing as Adab al-Qabr, like it's just not possible. But of course, it is possible. It is, of course, something that Allah Ta'ala can make happen if you chooses to do so. And on top of that, we have all these akhbar and these nusus that support the idea. And anything else? We had also discussed the soul versus the nafs and the body. How exactly is the punishment or the blessing is going to be received in the grave? And we had I had sent that picture, the screenshot from the Ma'arif al-Quran regarding Qadi Thana Allah Panipati's discussion on that. So those are pretty much the major discussions that we had. And we're starting now from Hal Ataka Hadithu Musa, ayah number 15. Is there any volunteer that wants to start us off on the translation? Well, he left the call. He ain't even. Okay, back. Okay, I can do it inshallah. So we have Hal Ataka Hadithu Musa. Hal, of course, for istifham, has the narration, has the story, the account, the event of regarding Musa alayhi salam, has that reached you? Now, why is this being brought up? It seems very random that, we were talking about death and then we're talking about the Day of Judgment. Now we're talking about Musa alayhi salam's story. What exactly is the connection between this and the previous verses? We will find this actually quite a lot, that a lot of times there will be the actions of the mushrikeen of Makkah mentioned, that they're very hostile towards the Muslims. They're very they do a lot of dhulm. They aren't friendly at all. Of course, that these mushrikeen of Makkah, that's how they treat the Muslims. So then what does Allah Ta'ala do? He brings up a story of a previous prophet as a way of tasalli. The word is tasalli. It's like something to show him that you, O Messenger of Allah, although this is breaking your heart, although this is very difficult for you to handle emotionally, that this is obviously you want all these people to believe, but this is the sunnah of the prophets of the past as well. That they would go to their people, they would go to the in this case the political heads of their time, and they would also be rejected. They would also have the door slammed in their face. They would also be oppressed. They would also be beaten and physically hurt and rejected and just told that, as of course in the story of Musa alayhi salam, that he's told that he's crazy, he's a sahir, he's all these different things. So this is what we call tasalli, or lit tashwiq also. So hal ataka hadith Musa, has the account of Moses come to you, O Prophet? إذ ناداه ربه بالوادي المقدس طوى. إذ ناداه ربه, when his Lord called out to him, بالوادي المقدس طوى, in the wad is like the valley, between two mountains you have like the land in between, so that's the valley. And we know that this is called the Mount Tur, as mentioned in other parts of the Quran, that he was by the Turi Sayna. And al-Muqaddas, it is a blessed, Mubarak place, Tuwa, and this place is called Tuwa. So when his Lord called out to him in the holy valley of Tuwa, اذهب إلى فرعون إنه طغى. And that whole how that happens is mentioned in the beginning of Surah Taha, and how Allah Ta'ala says, Inni an Allah, فاخلع عليك إنك بالوادي المقدس طوى. So that's mentioned in the beginning of Surah Taha. اذهب إلى فرعون إنه طغى. And Allah Ta'ala commands Musa alayhi salam, He says, go to Fir'aun إنه طغى. He has transgressed all bounds. In Surah An-Naba, we get to actually define what exactly does طغى or طغيان mean. So طغى coming from طغيان. So طغيان, like we had discussed, means if you have, for example, you take a container, you put it under the sink, and then you turn that water on, you turn the sink on, and then that water, if it begins to, it starts filling up slowly, and then eventually it'll reach the top. You don't turn that sink off, it'll overflow. It'll go out of that boundary that you set for it. It'll go out of that container. So similarly, it's طغيان is going out of these boundaries that have been set by Allah Ta'ala. فقل هل لك إلى أن تزكى وأهديك إلى ربك فتخشى. So then Musa alayhi salam, he asks Fir'aun, he says that فقل هل لك إلى أن تزكى. Say to him that, are you willing to purify yourself? Are you willing to have your own tazkiyah done? وأهديك إلى ربك فتخشى. And وأهديك, I may guide you, Musa alayhi salam, may assist you to your and guide you to your Lord فتخشى, so that you may fear him, so that you may have the khashya of Allah Ta'ala. Now, why is this mentioned? It's actually Sheikh Sabuni, he mentions, he quotes Zamakhshari saying that ذكر الخشية لأنها ملاك الأمر من خشي الله أتى منه كل خير وبدأ مخاطبته بالاستفهام. Okay, so the reason that khashya is mentioned is because a person has a khashya of Allah Ta'ala. If a person gets this one quality in their lives, and this goes for us too, that if a person has a khashya of Allah Ta'ala, then pretty much everything else will be set in order. That if a person fears Allah Ta'ala, then he'll stay away from all the things that he knows he shouldn't be doing, and he'll do all the things that he knows he should be doing, because he fears the punishment of Allah Ta'ala. He knows he doesn't want to make Allah Ta'ala angry. And then the question may come that, like compared to our belief in like this having fear of Allah Ta'ala, it seems so much more violent and so much more harsh compared to, like the belief that the Christian people have, that, Christianity is all about love and embracing Jesus and all that stuff, But we see that khashya, in reality, it's love is a fear that's born out of love. That a person should have love for Allah Ta'ala that causes him to fear Allah Ta'ala. Like, just like how a son or a child has that fear of a father, but that's born out of love, because it's not that you're fearing him because of some like physical punishment that your father can quite possibly, he could deal onto you, but rather it's because you just don't want to disappoint your dad. So similarly, we also don't want to disappoint Allah Ta'ala, and want to gain the ridwan, the rida Allah. We want to gain the pleasure of Allah Ta'ala. أهديك إلى ربك فتخشى فأراه الآية الكبرى. Is there anything else to فأراه الآية الكبرى? So, and then ayah number 20 says, then he showed him the great sign. فأراه الآية الكبرى. So what exactly is this great sign? Actually, we see this in Surah Taha, Surah Al-Shu'ara. Let me just pull it up really quickly. Is that Musa alayhi salam, and this instance when he approaches Fir'aun, it's actually, of course, it's in multiple different parts of the Quran, where he says, فَأْتِيَا فِرْعَوْنَ فَقُولَا إِنَّا رَسُولُ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. That go to Fir'aun and say that we are the messengers of the Lord of all worlds. That فَأْتِيَا فِرْعَوْنَ فَقُولَا إِنَّا رَسُولُ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ أَنْ أَرْسِلْ مَعَنَا بَنِي إِسْرَائِيل. And they are commanded to say that, let the Banu Israel come with us. قال ألم نربك فينا وليدا ولبثت فينا من عمرك سنين. And the Fir'aun, of course, he protested and he says, didn't we raise you as a child and you spent quite a few years of your life with us under our care? وفعلت فعلتك التي فعلت وأنت من الكافرين. Then you did what you did and you became من الكافرين, from the ungrateful, not from the disbelievers, of course. وفعلت فعلتك التي is just like his ambiguous way of referring to how he punched the Qibti, and he ended up dying. قال فعلتها إذا وأنا من الضالين. He says, Musa alayhi salam, he replies by saying that I did that then when I was وأنا من الضالين. We had to be very careful when you're translating like statements like this. Also, it comes in Surah Duha when referring to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that when we say dalleen, it's not referring to, like, of course, them being like away from Allah Ta'ala. Rather, it's referring to them not being prophets yet or something of the like. So this in the next ayah you can actually see this more clearly. فَفَرَرْتُ مِنْكُمْ لَمَّا خِفْتُكُمْ فَوَهَبَ لِي رَبِّي حُكْمًا وَجَعَلَنِي مِنَ الْمُرْسَلِينَ. That Allah, I fled from you when I feared you, then my Lord granted me وَهَبَ لِي رَبِّي حُكْمًا وَجَعَلْنِي مِنَ الْمُرْسَلِينَ. He granted me the hukmah, the wisdom, and he made me from the messengers. So being from the Dallin, and referring to Musa alayhi salam, is not saying that he was, he didn't believe in, he wasn't like rightly guided. And then later on, this kind of back and forth happens between Musa alayhi salam and Fir'aun, and then eventually what happens, he says that قال لئن اتخذت إلها غيري لجعلنك من المسجونين قال أولو جئتك بشيء مبين. What if I bring to you, O Fir'aun, you want to call me you want to call me Majnoon, you want to call me a Sahid, you want to call me this and that, all this personal character assassination that takes place by Fir'aun and his people. He says قال أولو جئتك بشيء مبين. What if I come to you with a clear proof? قال فأت به إن كنت من الصادقين. He says, okay, fine, bring it then if what you say is true, if you are from the truthful ones. So he says فألقى عصاه فإذا هي ثعبان مبين ونزع يده فإذا هي بيضاء للناظرين. So this is the فأراه الآية الكبرى. That's being referred to here. That's Musa alayhi salam. What does he do? He throws his staff down. فألقى عصاه فإذا هي ثعبان مبين, and then it becomes a real snake. ونزع يده فإذا هي بيضاء للناظرين. And then he draws out his hand from his collar. It's like he puts his hand underneath his arm, and then when he takes his hand out, it becomes shining white for all to see. So that is the recording. Great. I just keep constantly checking the my camera app thing, just to make sure that the recording doesn't stop in the middle like it did last time. Okay. So فكذب وعصى ثم أدبر يسعى. So then فكذب وعصى, that he Fir'aun, what does he do? He belies this. He himself has asked for this miracle, and then he rejects it outright. وعصى, and he disobeys this command and this call of da'wah by Musa alayhi salam. ثم أدبر يسعى. Ayah number 22. Then he turns away. أدبر, he turns. يسعى, and he runs, fleeing away from that majlis. فحشر فنادى, and he gathers the people. فحشر كل الناس فنادى, and he calls out. What does he call out? Nida, to make an announcement. فقال أنا ربكم الأعلى. فقال أنا ربكم الأعلى. So Fir'aun says that I am your Lord, the Most High. So what does Allah Ta'ala say? He says فأخذه الله نكال الآخرة والأولى إن في ذلك لعبرة لمن يخشى. So then Allah Ta'ala seizes him, or Allah Ta'ala has taken him as a nakal. Nakal is like, as the, if you want, like role model, quote unquote, but like in the bad way. That Allah Ta'ala makes him as like the exemplar of what it means to be like a terrible person, and that's the person that's going to be punished. Like when you think of terrible people of the past, and like, or especially in our like Islamic tradition, it's got to, like, number one on that list, it has to be Fir'aun. Just like how, if you, like from a non-Islamic tradition, you think about terrible people, it's always going to be like Hitler is like at the top of that list, So that's like Fir'aun in this context. إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَعِبَرَةً لِمَنْ يَخْشَى. And that is a great lesson for those who would fear God. So now, what is the point? We had discussed that. What is the point of bringing this qissa, the story of Musa alayhi salam and his whole back and forth with Fir'aun, and mentioning it right after the Day of Judgment? And then we had mentioned that it is for the للتسلية للنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, that it's something to solace the heart of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, because he sees that people are saying يقولون إنا لمردودون في الحافرة إذا كنا عظاما نخرة, that the people keep saying that, are we really going to be returning to our original state, and are we going to come back into able-bodied people after our bodies have decayed? So then this is tasliya lin Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that just like how they're rejecting you and saying all these mean comments to you, similarly this happened to the previous prophets. But then you also see a connection with the next couple of ayat that are about to come up, that Allah Ta'ala now He's addressing the Quraysh, the people of Makkah, the mushrikeen of Makkah. He says, أَأَنْتُمْ أَشَدُّ خَلْقًا أَمِ السَّمَاءُ بَنَاهَا. That Allah Ta'ala says, I feel like I'm forgetting to mention something that أَأَنْتُمْ أَشَدُّ خَلْقًا أَمِ السَّمَاءُ بَنَاهَا. So now the Quraysh are being addressed here, and the reason that the Quraysh have a sort of, that they could relate back to the people of Fir'aun, is that, Fir'aun, he was in Misr, Egypt, of course, and we know the Egyptian history is very, very popular, and the relationship that the Arabs can have with the Egyptians is that it's the desert, but on top of that, it's that when they compare their own civilization to the people of Fir'aun and the people that were alive then, is that they see that they were not even at the same caliber of what that civilization was. There were some similarities. That, of course, the Quraysh living in Mecca, what they were known as the guardians and the caretakers of the Kaaba. So there was a sort of prestige that they had over the rest of the Arabian Peninsula. So similarly, that strength should remind them of the strength of the people of the past, which is, which Allah Ta'ala calls our attention towards all the time, that, you guys think you're strong, but what about Ad and Thamud? They were also strong, but they got destroyed. So it shows that, although you guys think that you have a sort of like a civilizational or like a superiority over other people, that you guys weren't even as strong as Fir'aun and his army and his people, that if we are able to destroy them, then we can destroy you as well. فأنتم أشد خلقا أم السماء بناء. Are you أنتم, this Damir is referring to the Quraysh. Then now we're back to the original Mukhatab, which is the people of Makkah. أأنتم أشد خلقا. Are you more difficult to create? أم السماء بناها. Or is the sky more difficult to create that we have built? بناها. Okay, let's just translate this first. رفع سمكها فسواها. That Allah Ta'ala says that He raised its height and He elevated it, and He raised its height and He leveled it. فسوى تسوية. He made it even. وأغطش ليلها وأخرج ضحاها. That Allah Ta'ala says that He darkened its night and He brought out brought out the morning light. والأرض بعد ذلك دحاها. That Allah Ta'ala says that, and the earth after this He spread it. Daha, He made it even, and He made it like how in Surah An-Naba we had discussed that Allah Ta'ala is the one who flattened the earth, like wal arda alam naj'al al-arda mihada. That Allah Ta'ala says He made the earth like a bedding, like something flat, so that you could actually live on it, and it's not like rocky terrain or something that's difficult for you to build a civilization on, or to even like grow agriculture and those things. أخرج منها ماءها ومرعاها. And Allah Ta'ala says that He brought out from it its water and its pasture. والجبال أرساها. And Allah Ta'ala anchored the mountains in it. متاعا لكم ولأنعامكم. And Allah Ta'ala has made it an enjoyment for you and your animals. Now there's a lot of correlations between this passage of Antum. What is it? Ayah number 27 until what we just read, ayah number 33. And this whole qissa of Fir'aun is that we see Antum ashaddu khalqan am as-sama'u banaha. That the Quraysh, of course, they weren't as strong as the pharaohs, who Allah Ta'ala says that we gave the pharaohs and the Fir'auns of that time, we gave them immense power over the people and of the land. Then Allah Ta'ala says, of course, now when you look at like the architecture of the people of Misr and the people of Egypt, especially at that time, they were people that were really into building things, such as you guys ever been like walk into like a house, and it has those incredibly high ceilings that just gives like a feeling of like luxuriousness, of like a certain grandeur that this place has, that the ceilings are so high. So what is or did it cut out? Can you guys still hear me? Okay. My mom called, man. I gotta text her. Hold on, give me a second. Sorry. Teaching class. Okay, I'm so sorry about that. I just texted her right now. So, what was I saying? So yeah, so then like the fair, like we were discussing, like these beautiful buildings that have these ridiculously tall ceilings, and then they have the so now why is this being brought up is that we see that in comparison to that, we see antum ashaddu khalqan am as-sama' banaha rafa'a samkaha fasawaha. These people of Fir'aun and the pharaohs, what they like to do, they used to like to make these tall buildings with these and they had these beautifully high ceilings. Is how does that compare to the ceiling that I made for you all? That you all have this, you guys think that you can make a sama for your own selves, but rather the sky I have built for you, it doesn't even have these columns that you guys have. It doesn't have any cracks. You guys sure if you guys live in like a old house, you guys ever look up and you can see like those little cracks that are coming in, because ceilings are very, very fragile. Additionally, if you have a high ceiling, you have to have additional columns to support that weight, or else it's just too much freestanding weight. So you have to have more columns. What does Allah Ta'ala say? بِغَيْرِ عَمَدٍ تَرَوْنَهَا, that we built it without any columns having to hold it up. And then Allah Ta'ala says, وَأَغْطَشَ لَيْلَهَا وَأَخْرَجَ ضُحَاهَا, that, this, that we brought it, we bring in the night and the day, and we're the ones who control the interchanging of the night and the day. And if the Egyptians, they were known to worship the sun. وَالْأَرْضَ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ دَحَاهَا, and after that we paved the earth for you. So it's going again back to that whole this economic superiority, or like this superiority that these two tribes had, that the pharaohs thought that they had with their people, and that the Quraysh think that they have with their Arabian people, is that the only reason that you have this ability to, how does Allah Ta'ala describe the Quraysh? He says لِإِيلَافِ قُرَيْشٍ إِيلَافِهِمْ رِحْلَةَ الشِّتَاءِ وَالصَّيْفِ, that Allah Ta'ala is talking about how the Quraysh, they have like a sort of economic superiority due to their ability to travel to the south, to Yemen, as well as to north, to Palestine. And they're able to trade, they're able to gain goods, they're able to gain all these things. On top of that, people come to them because they're like the capital of the Arabian Peninsula, and people want to come to the Kaaba and stuff. So they have this sort of economic superiority over the rest of the world. So and that's only done through travel. So وَالْأَرْضَ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ دَحَاهَا, and the only reason, what is Allah Ta'ala saying? Saying the only reason you're able to travel on this earth is because I have flattened it for you, because I've paved these roads for you. So, and similarly, that's the case of Fir'aun. If it was, obviously they had a great civilization. If they had a great civilization, they had to have a great economy, or else, those things, they definitely go hand in hand. أخرج منها ماءها ومرعاها, that on top of that, your ability to trade, you yourselves had this had agriculture and water for your own selves, that you didn't starve and have to go out to another place to gain food and water. وَالْجِبَالَ أَرْسَاهَا. Now, again, the correlation between the people of Fir'aun and this ayah right here is that wal jibala arsaha. What were the pharaohs known to have built? Pyramids. Compared to wal jibala arsaha, our mountains that we made, we have dozens and dozens, and or like how many, like so many mountains throughout the entire world, that Allah Ta'ala made these mountains, and they and your pyramids that you're so proud of pale in comparison to what Allah Ta'ala has created. مَتَاعًا لَكُمْ وَلِأَنْعَامِكُمْ. And Allah Ta'ala says that they are a temporary enjoyment for you and your animals. That all these different ni'am that Allah Ta'ala just mentioned, that there's a sky, we have the interchanging of the night and the day, we have these paved roads, we have water, we have food, we have the mountains. These are, and of course in the mountains, like why is that such a big ni'mah? Is because of course as Allah Ta'ala describes it, that He made it awtad, as we had discussed in the previous surah. But additionally, you have animals in the mountains themselves. You have different type of agriculture and animals there, and what was I going to say? And most importantly, minerals. That there's minerals in the mountains that you can't get anywhere else. So these are blessings and enjoyments for you and for your animals. So now, why does Allah Ta'ala mention us, human beings, along with cattle? An'am is our cattle. So the relationship that we have with animals, of course, we can't survive without them. And what do? We have them do our work for us, work on the farm, work on the field, and if we use them to survive, we feed them. And if we feel like they're too old, if we feel like they're just not doing their job, what happens? People slaughter them, and we eat them for their meat. We use their skin for ourselves. We order them around. That if the animals don't listen to the herder, then what happens? That herder, he's just going to start yelling, going to start whipping. Then now what is Allah Ta'ala doing? He's saying, just like how you treat your animals, this is how you are to me. That you guys treat your animals with such you have like a job for them. There's a specific duties that you have from them, and if they disobey you, you punish them. Similarly, Allah Ta'ala is saying that you have been deputized by me as human beings to be people who are Khalifatullahi ala al-ard, that we are the people that Allah Ta'ala has chosen to be the bearers of this deen, and we have to uphold the responsibilities, or else it's like we could get treated like animals as well. All of us standing in front of Allah Ta'ala, we're like how the animals are standing in front of us. Did that make sense? I feel like I talked really a little too fast there as well. Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
For the ayah, أَأَنْتُمْ أَشَدُّ خَلْقًا أَمِ السَّمَاءُ بَنَاهَا? I don't understand, um, what is Allah trying to mention there? I don't know if I missed it, but like when He's comparing the creation of insan versus the sama, like what is He trying to get at?
Between like the difference, like why mention the difficulty of to create you as well as to create the sky?
Yeah.
Okay, I got you. أنتم أشد خلقا. So he says الاستفهام للتقرير والتوبيخ والمعنى هل أنتم يا معشر المشركين أشق وأصعب خلقا أم خلق السماء العظيمة البديعة. It's just, is the sky, if Allah Ta'ala is able to create the sky, why would He not be able to recreate you? That's a like a simple way to put it.
So is it just
Mhm.
like emphasizing like the magnificence, or
Yeah, exactly. فإن من رفع السماء على عظمها, that the greatness that Allah, like how great does a being have to be to be able to create this sky, first of all. So if he and on top of that he's able to do it in such a manner that we can never even dream of, like, like how we said, like the sky is like a ceiling, and for us to create our ceiling we have to do all these different things to make sure that the ceiling can support itself and there's no cracks in it and all these different things. That Allah Ta'ala has the ability to do this, then to be able to bring you back to life, it's like nothing in front of Him.
okay, I got it.
Any other questions for these two sections? From ayah 15 to ayah 15 to ayah number 26 is like one section talking about the whole qissa of Musa alayhi salam and Fir'aun. And you have أنتم أشد خلقا all the way up until متاعا لكم ولأنعامكم from to ayah number 33. So those are like two different sections, but you can see like there's a relationship between the two that I was trying to highlight. And then if there's no other questions, we could move on. Is that Allah Ta'ala says فَإِذَا جَاءَتِ الطَّامَّةُ الْكُبْرَى. So متاع, it means a temporary enjoyment. Why is it temporary? فَإِذَا جَاءَتِ الطَّامَّةُ الْكُبْرَى, because it's the طَامَّةُ الْكُبْرَى, the great calamity, طَمَّ الْبَحر, these like a disaster that just strikes and just destroys everything in its way. طَامَّةُ الْكُبْرَى فَإِذَا جَاءَتِ الطَّامَّةُ الْكُبْرَى, when suddenly, as we had said before, I think فَإِذَا هُمْ بِالسَّاهِرَةِ, ayah number 14, when suddenly they are standing in the mahshar, in the plain of resurrection. فَإِذَا جاءت الطامة الكبرى, suddenly the great calamity strikes. يعني قيامة, when قيامة approaches. يوم يتذكر الإنسان ما سعى, on that day an insan, a person, an individual, who will remember ما سعى, that what he had done, all those things that he had uh, strove. A day when man shall remember all for which he truly strove. Okay, sorry. So that person, that masa'a, those things that he was engaged with, those things that he really, that he focused his mind and heart on, those things that he was always preoccupied with, those things that he could, over everything else, these are the things that he was dedicated to. يوم يتذكر الإنسان ما سعى. That a person is going to be, on the day of judgment, going to be saying that. Why was I even worried about those things? Why was I worried about my friends? Or why was I worried about, this like basketball? Why was I worried about my fantasy football team so much when I should have been focused on the preparing for this day? وبرزت الجحيم لمن يرى, أظهر الجحيم, that the أظهر الجهنم, that the Jahannam will become apparent. Jahim referring to the hellfire. لمن يرى, and hellfire shall be brought forth for all to see. فأما من طغى وآثر الحياة الدنيا فإن الجحيم هي المأوى. As for the one who has transgressed, وآثر, آثر يوثر إيثار, means to prefer, and they preferred the worldly life. فإن الجحيم هي المأوى, then the Jahannam will be his place of return, his home. وأما من خاف مقام ربي ونهى النفس عن الهوى فإن الجنة هي المأوى. And as for the one who feared the maqam of his Rabb, the station, or the, how does he translate it? His Lord's presence, the one who fears his Lord's presence. وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى, and he restrains his self, his nafs, from following his base desires. Then فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. So there was something to mention here, that you can see the difference that is being highlighted between the people that will be Ahlul Nar and Ahlul Jannah. That Allah Ta'ala is saying that in order to that okay, Allah Ta'ala is saying that the people that will enter Jahannam will be those people who are taghin, that those people who have this quality of tughyan in them as well, meaning that they don't care about the boundaries and the basically the Sharia, they don't care about the law and order that Allah Ta'ala has set through Islam. وآثر الحياة الدنيا, and on top of that, they prefer the worldly life. So this is saying that these are the qualities of the individuals that will enter the hellfire. So this is a lesson for us, of course, that if we do not want to be from Ahlul Nar, that we have to make sure that we don't have these qualities within ourselves as well. We have to make sure that we're not from the taghin, that we're not the people who ignore the bounds and the hudud that Allah Ta'ala has set for us. And additionally, وآثر الحياة الدنيا, that we have to make sure that deen always comes first for any situation of our lives. That we're always preferring our the hayat وآثر الحياة الآخرة, that we should be preferring the akhirah and whatever is best for our future rather than just our temporary life on this planet. فإن الجحيم هي المأوى وأما من خاف مقام ربه ونهى النفس عن الهوى. So a person that مقام ربه as opposed to طغى, and ونهى النفس عن الهوى, and he doesn't, the person who's restraining his base self, his desires, as in contrast to وآثر الحياة الدنيا. إن الجنة هي المأوى. May Allah Ta'ala make us from these people. يسألونك عن الساعة أيان مرساها. No, that's fine. يسألونك عن الساعة أيان مرساها. And they ask you, O Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, about regarding the hour. When shall it arrive? When shall it happen? فيما أنت من ذكراها, that what have you to do with its time of designation? That what فيما أنت من ذكراها, what does that have to do with you? إلى ربك منتهاها, to your Lord alone belongs the knowledge of its ultimate end. إلى ربك منتهاها أي علمها, that Allah Ta'ala alone knows when is the day of judgment going to take place. إنما أنت منذر من يخشاها, that you are, indeed, you are but a warner to those who would fear it. كأنهم يوم يرونها لم يلبثوا إلا عشية أو ضحاها. And on the day when they see it, it will be as though they had not lived in the world except for just one evening or one day. Any questions? I think I kind of did speed through that a little bit. There was something there was quite a bit that I wanted to mention at the end of the surah about like the symmetry between all the ayat and how does the entire surah kind of connect. But is there any questions regarding like any of the lugha or maybe some of the words that I just skipped through? وَبُرِّزَتِ الْجَحِيمُ, when Jahannam becomes apparent, and words like anything that I may have skipped that you guys had a question about. No? Okay, great. So, now the last thing that I wanted to mention, which I thought was very, very, very cool, was like I said, the symmetry of the ayah and how exactly does it all play out. Now, there's been some like Orientalists and like people that have written their PhDs on the incongruence of the surah. That this surah makes like zero sense. Like what was the point of al-Naziat gharqa, and then yawma tarjufu al-rajifa? What's the connection? Why I mentioned the story of Musa? Why I mentioned antum ashaddu khalqan, that you're going from Musa and then you're just switching all the way back to the people of Quraysh, and then you go back to the judgment day again, that yas'alunaka 'an as-sa'ati ayyana mursaha. Okay, watch this. So this surah is in 6 parts. Okay, you can see from ayah 1 to 9, you have the our 6 parts, roughly, basically, that I kind of divided it even more just so for the sake of like the class and just being able to have the discussions and translate it instead of translating it all at once. But you have the argument for the day of judgment, and then you have from ayah 10 to 14, you have the people saying يقولون إنا لمردودون في الحافرة. So there's a reminder of the day of judgment, and then there is the people that from يقولون إنا لمردودون في الحافرة all the way to ayah 14, where these people, these ayat are dealing with the people who are skeptical about the day of judgment, that they say they are really going to come back to life, and etc. etc. Then you have from ayah 15 to 26 the story of Musa alayhi salam and Fir'aun, and then Right after that, أنتم أشد خلقا, that Allah Ta'ala is mentioning from ayah 27 to ayah number 23, 33, sorry, 27 to 33. Allah Ta'ala mentions the world around you and Allah Ta'ala's power. So he's mentioning the story of Fir'aun, and Allah Ta'ala, then he talks about his own ability to be able to do all these great, amazing things, and how that, of course, as we had discussed before, that the reason to mention that his ability to that he has the ability to do all these amazing things is to show that he also has the ability to bring dead people back to life, which is what you're pretty much denying. Then part 5 is the description of the afterlife. فإذا جاءت الطامة الكبرى يوم يتذكر الإنسان ما سعى, that on the day of judgment a man will remember that which he strived towards. So then it talks about that until ayah number 41, that this is what's going to happen. These are the people that are going to go to Jahannam, these are the people that are going to go to Jannah. Then from ayah number يسألونك, for ayah number 42 until the end of the surah, Allah Ta'ala, he talks again about the questioning of the hour. These people, they ask these questions like, when is the day of judgment really going to happen, and all these things. So now we could look at the flow of the surah and how it really comes together. That so parts 1 and 2 are very similar. That Allah Ta'ala talks about the day of judgment and the people that deny the day of judgment, the people that are skeptical about the day of judgment. And then parts all the way at the end of the surah, we have parts 5 and 6. There's another description of the day of judgment, as well as people who are questioning the day of judgment. So that's the first mirroring that's happening. And we see here that that in the beginning of the surah, there's people that are, it's like the description of the day of judgment, as well as people that deny it. And then at the end of the surah, there's a description of the day of judgment, as well as the people that deny it. So now, what is the day of judgment regarding? It's about regarding something of the future. So now there's only 3 different times that if you wanted to break it, there's the past, there's the present, and there's the future. So we discussed future. Now, if we look at the middle of the surah, you'll actually see that past and present is going to be discussed. That first you discuss the past with Fir'aun and his people, and then you discuss the present. That if you look at the world around you, أنتم أشد خلقا أم السماء بناها. If you look at the sky, رفع سمكها فسواها, how magnificent and how beautiful it is. وأغطش ليلها وأخرج ضحاها, the night and the day. والأرض بعد ذلك دحاها, the flat earth. أخرج منها ماءها ومرعاها, the water and its food. والجبال أرساها, and the mountains. That if you look into the past and you look and you draw, what is it? Okay, oh shoot. إن في ذلك لعبرة لمن يخشى, that the story of Fir'aun is what? It's a ibrah, it's a lesson for the people that fear. That if you look at the past and you gain this ibrah and you learn your lesson from these dumb people of the past, that you're not supposed to disobey Allah Ta'ala, and then you look at the world around you, what should it lead to? It should lead to your future. That you should, all of this, the past should be something that you learn from, and the present itself should be something that you learn from, and you make sure that you live your life properly. Why? So that you can make sure you have a good future, as basically, which is on the day of judgment. That's the first thing. Okay, وَالنَّازِعَاتِ غَرْقًا. In the beginning, Allah Ta'ala says, وَالنَّازِعَاتِ غَرْقًا. How do we translate gharq? Okay, let me ask that again. We translate it as وَالنَّازِعَاتِ غَرْقًا, by those angels that pull out the souls of the disbelievers very viciously, right? But if you look at Hanzler, what's the first thing that's going to come up for gharq? It's drowning. Yeah, I think you mouthed it right there. Gharq, that a person starts drowning in water. Now that's very clearly that's connected to the story of Fir'aun, because he also drowned in water. Similarly, sabiqati sabaqa was fasabiqati sabaqa, by the angels that march forward and they go forward. How do they surpass swiftly? So now this is also a reminder of the Fir'aun's army when they are marching to Musa, to catch up with Musa alayhi salam and the Banu Israel, and try to catch up to them. And that they're just a small group that this big army is trying to catch up to. And but Allah Ta'ala eventually, what does He do? وَالسَّابِحَاتِ سَبْحًا. Sabah is to swim, to float. So now Allah Ta'ala is mentioning this scene of water. That's, of course, this is a metaphorical, that Allah Ta'ala is describing the angels that like swiftly, or they glide down from the heavens. But this word sabah is also referring to the swimming in water, floating in water, which is similar to the qissa of Fir'aun, where he drowned, with him and his army drowned in the water. But that's what I had heard from a lecture. Now, this is kind of from my own side, that if you wanted to extend this whole these first five ayat and the analogy that's kind of taking place is that وَنَازِعَاتِ غَرْقًا, that this is referring to, it's kind of alluding to how Fir'aun drowned in the water. وَالنَّاشِطَاتِ نَشْطًا, well, that's talking about the angels that take the souls of the believers. So that's also talking about like Musa alayhi salam and his people, the Banu Israel, the people that believed in Allah Ta'ala. وَالسَّابِحَاتِ سَبْحًا فَالسَّابِقَاتِ سَبْقًا. And then you have this talking about how the Fir'aun ended up in the water. Just like sabah is from swimming and floating. فَالسَّابِقَاتِ سَبْقًا, the people that went forward is the people of Musa alayhi salam. They were saved from the water. فَالْمُدَبِّرَاتِ أَمْرًا, and Allah Ta'ala has deputized certain angels to take care of administrative work throughout the earth. So it's like these first five ayat are like echoing this alluding to like this whole struggle of Musa alayhi salam that he had with Fir'aun, and how the Banu Israel and Musa alayhi salam survived, and because of their belief in Allah Ta'ala, whereas it's the people of Fir'aun and his army who are going to be part of this ayah of وَالنَّازِعَاتِ غَرْقًا, that these people who the angels rip out their souls so viciously. That's just from my own side. I just kind of wanted to. I heard that from like a bayan, and then I felt like it could have just been he could have taken it like a step forward more. إذ ناداه ربه, ayah number 16. إذ ناداه ربه بالواد المقدس طوى. That whenever we mentioned that in Surah Taha, Allah Ta'ala introduces Himself. He says, إني أنا الله أنا ربك فاخلع أنا عليك إنك بالواد المقدس طوى. That's not Surah Taha. That's something different. إنني أنا الله لا إله إلا أنا فاعبدني وأقم الصلاة لذكري. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. That Allah Ta'ala, whenever He introduces Himself, or whenever he speaks to Musa alayhi salam, He's introducing Himself as the one and only Lord. Innani ana Allah la ilaha illa ana. That I am the only Lord Allah Ta'ala is saying that I am the only Lord that deserves to be worshipped. So that's in contrast to just how Fir'aun, what does he say? فحشر فنادى. What is إذ ناداه ربه, that Allah Ta'ala called out to Musa alayhi salam. And what does this Fir'aun do? فحشر فنادى, he gathered the people and he called out, he made the announcement. فقال أنا ربكم الأعلى. And then he makes this announcement that I am your Lord, the Most High, that there's no one above me that deserves to be worshipped. So there's that contrast there. فأراه الآية الكبرى, that we showed him the great sign. And then فإذا جاءت الطامة الكبرى, that you have this great calamity that comes. So what is Allah Ta'ala showing? That when you deny the greatest sign, you'll get the greatest punishment. And then also this يسأل ثم أدبر يسعى. So يسعى, that's the first time it comes again. يوم يتذكر الإنسان ما سعى. Sa'a is also same word. And then showing that Fir'aun was running away from and he turned away. He turned away and he was running. And يوم يتذكر الإنسان ما سعى, that an individual, he's going to be remembering all those things that he like dedicated his life towards. So it's like that individual also should have ran away from these pointless things that he was so focused on. Additionally, you have يسألونك عن الساعة. الساعة, same root. That this our sa'i, in reality, what is it supposed to be for? It's supposed to be for a sa'a, that we're supposed to dedicate our lives to that on when the day of judgment does come, when the sa'a does fall upon us, we are prepared, and that we gain the mercy of Allah Ta'ala so that we can enter Jannah. And then you have يقولون إنا لمردودون في الحافرة, that the people in the beginning of the surah, number 10, that the people say that are we really going to return back to our original state? And then at the end of the surah, there's the same question, that يسألونك عن الساعة أيان مرساها, that these people, they ask regarding the hour, that when is it going to befall us, that when is it going to happen? Okay, so then Allah Ta'ala is showing that some of these questions, sometimes they don't deserve an answer. That in the previous surah, Allah Ta'ala, He brought up their question and then He gave all these dalail and these things like that. Sometimes there's these people just like Fir'aun, that you could give them whatever you want. فَأَرَاهُ الْآيَةُ الْكُبْرَى, that we can show them the greatest sign and give them the most convincing arguments. What's going to happen? ثُمَّ أَدْبَرَ يَسْعَى, they turn away. That no matter how much talking to them, it just won't help them. إنما هي شجرة واحدة. Okay, and then there's another usage of that. So يقولون, يسألونك, and then you have right after that إنما أنت منذر من يخشاها, ayah number 45. That's how the إنما pairs up with يسألونك. And then you have فإنما هي زجرة واحدة, that this إنما is also paired up with يقولون. So there's another mirroring happen over there. Now this one's really cool that Allah Ta'ala says in ayah number وَالْجِبَالَ أَرْسَاهَا, 32, that Allah Ta'ala is saying that He's the one who anchored the mountains. That Allah Ta'ala is the Mursi, Arsaha, Arsa Yursi, Irsatuha Mursi, right? Allah Ta'ala is the Mursi who anchored the mountains. And then what did these people ask? He said, يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ السَّاعَةِ أَيَّانَ مُرْسَاهَا. That these people are asking about the hour, when is it going to befall us? So Allah Ta'ala is saying, like, really? You guys see these great, amazing mountains that nothing you build could ever compare to? And you're saying that this same Mursi who was able to create these mountains, when is this Mursi going to be able to, is he really going to be able to bring the Sa'ah upon us? SubhanAllah. And then lastly, you have إنما أنت منذر من يخشاهم وأهديك إلى ربك. Oh, you have this usage of khashya throughout the entire surah. Allah Ta'ala says in ayah number 19, وَأَهْدِيَكَ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ فَتَخْشَى. And then again, ayah number, where is it at? إِنَّمَا أَنْتَ مُنذِرُ مَنْ يَخْشَاهَا, ayah number 45. And إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَعِبْرَةً لِمَنْ يَخْشَى, ayah number 26. That this khashya is something that a person needs, which will gain them success in the future. So there's just a lot of contrast between all these ayat and how this, like the entire surah is like fitting from, people like I mentioned in the beginning. There's people that say that this ayat doesn't fit at all. I mean, this surah, like the ayat, they don't fit in it at all. But you can see there's like a constant mirroring and constant contrast is going on between throughout the entire surah. So, alhamdulillah, we have finished Surah Naziat. Is there any questions? I think there was two things that I wanted to mention. Just any questions? You guys go ahead if you wanted to ask something. But one thing that I wanted to say was that we see here اذهب إلى فرعون إنه طغى فقل هل لك إلى أن تزكى وأهديك إلى ربك فتخشى. Musa alayhi salam, you see the way that he's talking to Fir'aun, he's talking in a very nice manner. Allah Ta'ala says وأهديك إلى ربك فتخشى, أي وأرشدك إلى معرفة ربك وطاعته فتتقيه وتخشاه. That shall I guide you towards the ma'rifah of your Lord, and that you could obey Him, and that you could fear Him and have His khashya. But then he later on he says that وأردفه الكلام الرقيق ليستدعيه بالتلطف ويستنزله بالمداراة من عتوه كما في قوله تعالى فقولا له قولا لينا. That Allah Ta'ala in a different portion of the Quran he says that فقولا له قولا لينا. He commanded Musa alayhi salam and Harun alayhi salam to speak to Fir'aun قولا لينا, a very soft speech. Be nice when you're talking to him. Don't try to make him upset. Don't try to rile him up. And then, that's advice for all of us as well. Sometimes when you're involved in like da'wah work, I don't know if you guys have had these experiences on Jamaat, you try to go up to someone, you try to just tell them, you're just trying to tell them there's a bayan after Maghrib. It's like 4 words. There's a bayan after Maghrib. It's 5 words, okay? But then, man, you could really make people upset. So then and then of course, obviously, if you take a different approach, like you're gonna you you try to give people like invalid, and you try to scare them off, and you try to make them like worry about the hellfire and stuff. That's for sure not gonna work. But you have a better chance if you go for this qawl layyin, right? So this is the advice that Allah Ta'ala is giving Musa alayhi, or this is the command that Allah Ta'ala is giving Musa alayhi salam, Harun alayhi salam, that if you keep your cool when speaking to this tyrant, when you keep your cool when you're representing, like you two are representing like years and years of people that have been oppressed by this tyrant, that even though it's a very difficult situation, that now you're like face to face talking to this man, you have to make sure you keep your cool. So this is also advice for us, that when we're just calling people to Allah Ta'ala, we're giving them advice, trying to call them to the masjid, for like whether it's Muslims or non-Muslims, we always have to keep this qawl layyin. And then that inshallah that will be a better mode of da'wah for these individuals. Yeah, go ahead, Arsalan.
For the ayah فَقُلْ هَلْ لَكَ إِلَىٰ أَن تَزَكَّى. So I was wondering about like, not like the nahu of it, but like word to word, how to translate. So هَلْ لَكَ إِلَىٰ, like, is that is that like I thought it was more of a istifham, like a question type phrase. Like, is it possible for you to purify?
It's saying it's not possible. Are you willing to purify yourself?
So for ila and tazakka, like why is ila there?
What do you mean?
Like what is the function of ila in this sentence?
So this is like for like masdariya, right?
Yeah.
So then so then saying فقل هل لك. Yeah, let's see what فقل هل
I
لك.
guess what I'm wondering is, can't you do like? Wouldn't it imply the same meaning without ila? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what is the function exactly of ila as well as an tazakka?
No, because then you would like the muqaddar would be like فقل هل لك رغبة, like this willing, like how we said possible or willingness, right? That would be like the muqaddar word in there. And then with that
Mm-hmm.
muqaddar, you would need the ila too. So if you say هل لك, like the raghba, do you have the desire? Do you even have like, do you have the wish? Do you have to ila and tazakka? So that's why the ila would kind of, it would be necessary for the, like that hidden word there.
Okay.
رغبة أو ميل إلى أن تطهر.
Is that just a novel thing, like what I was wondering about, or is this how this type of thing is usually phrased?
No, it is. You're asking because it's like a weird construction, right? That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. So I'll look into it more exactly. Why not word it something else? Like what's the faida of the ila? Is it necessary? But that's inshallah I can get back to you on that. Any other questions? Okay. The other thing that I just wanted to mention was the what is it? وأما من خاف مقام ربه ونهى النفس عن الهوى. Pretty much like, there's a contrast with the tagha and the athar al-hayat al-dunya. Like it's highlighting the importance that we all need to make sure that we are not people of the athar al-hayat al-dunya. That if we want to make sure that, like, which is probably like the most difficult thing today, they say حب الدنيا رأس كل خطيئة, that love of the world is something that is the cause of each and every single sin, which is true that, any sin that an individual might do, whether it's stealing or lying, or, eating something that they shouldn't be eating, drinking something they shouldn't be drinking, saying something they shouldn't be saying. It's all like, of course, like eating or drinking, that's because you just love that food, or like you love that drink. So that's a part of hubb dunya. Saying something to someone is, maybe you're saying that because you want to try to assert your dominance over like another individual. That's also love for dunya. That's called love for fame, love for like having like that superiority in your group of friends or whatnot, or in like a crowd. And all these different things could be, or the root of all of it is always going to boil down to hubb dunya. So this is like the opposite of khashya. That if a person has this hubb dunya, that means they don't have full khashya of Allah Ta'ala yet. So we ask that Allah Ta'ala allow us to free our hearts of حب الدنيا and make us from these people that have khashya, inshallah. If there's no more questions, inshallah, we could end it here. I don't see any other hands raised. Okay, inshallah. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam.